Last night on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Sure seems like the Steelers fans out there that have wanted to see both these guys step into the lineup and figured that the bye week would be the right time to do it are only going to get 50% of what they want.
Yeah, that is confusing to me. I mean, Broderick Jones, I mean, look, we didn't hear his name, and that's a good thing with offensive linemen, right? So you would think you'd give him another chance. Now, I know Dan Moore, they like him. They like what he's done. They felt like he beat him out. So I get that you don't want to lose your job to an injury. But this is
in my opinion, he wouldn't be, though, Richie. I don't think he'd be losing it to an injury. I think he performed poorly. And I've been more of a Dan Moore defender than most in like the peanut gallery, you know, the public and the media who talk about this team, you know, to say nothing of the people inside the team. I've defended Dan Moore. I thought he was better last year, especially as a run blocker, than people gave him credit for. But I thought he was mostly wretched in the 4 games that he played. And then I thought Jones was pretty darn good against Jadeveon Clowney. I don't think that was really arguable. I thought Jones locked down that position that game.
So the Steelers are still in it, right? I mean, that's why I think that Tomlin's going to go with the veteran right now instead of a rookie. You're still in it. When you lose 3 in a row or something like that happens, maybe then you start putting your rookie in to see if he can, you know, for the rest of the year.
Okay, but what if you lose 3 in a row because your veteran isn't as good of a player as your rookie, and your rookie might have done a better job? I mean, it sounds like Joey Porter Jr. has – see, this is the thing. Porter Jr., they were clearly doing the baby steps, kid gloves approach with 2, but because you need to put 3 corners on the roster against a team that's almost always in a 3-wide set, like 90+% of the time, he's going to get more of a chance. You know what's inconsistent about this, Richie? I know you know what I'm about to say, I think, if you're thinking back a couple years. They've acted like Broderick Jones and Joey Porter. Jones an actual first-round pick. Porter might as well be because of where he was selected. It was just a strange year, obviously, with that. Mm-hmm. They've acted like those guys. We've got to keep them in like one of those jewelry boxes you get. You buy a very nice ring or a necklace. It's got felt on the inside. It's got the soft close hinges. They don't want anything to happen to that piece of very valuable material in there. They've both been treated like that, like the Fabergé egg draft picks. And yet Kendrick Green, pretty important position, a center, got played out of position as a center as a rookie in Ben Roethlisberger's final season when they were trying to make one last push. Explain to me how any of that makes sense when contrasted, you know, those 2 situations with one another.
It doesn't, other than there was really no one ahead of Kendrick Green. And you have Dan Moore, who's a capable starter, who started last year. I mean, I'm not saying he's the greatest left tackle in the game right now, but he has played and has played well at times. The team seems to like him, and I don't know. I'm torn with this one because I want to see your first-round guy, the guy you went up to get, play. But I also want to see the Steelers win and field the best team. So right now, I mean, if you're putting Dan Moore Jr. back there, I don't know if that says something about Broderick Jones, if that's like, hey, you need to get better or you're not ready yet. But I'm torn on this one. I'm with you in a way. You know, I think he should be playing just like Joey Porter Jr. But also, you know, Mike Tomlin has to put the best team out there that can win games too. What he thinks is the best team.
If Dan Moore plays poorly in this game, I think that should be his last start. I think Broderick Jones would come in. Maybe there's a comfort factor there. Richie, you were a Division I athlete. You went to Pitt. You ran track, right? So you were. I mean, I can say this without hyperbole. In your chosen sport, you were among the best in the country at that age level. You went to a D1 school. I didn't. So, like, here's the reason I bring this up. I think the Steelers like Dan Moore because he tries very hard and he works very hard. I played basketball, for example. I tried very hard. I worked very hard. On my best day, I was average. You, in track, were much better than average. If you worked hard or not, and I think Broderick Jones, by the way, has said and done all the right things, so I don't think that's a problem at all. I think he's worked hard too. I think he's conducted himself phenomenally well throughout this. But if he's the more talented player, he should play. This isn't high school or grade school sports here, and I do think you're right. I think the Steelers like him, but I think they're being blinded by like the qualities they see in him and not the actual tape he's putting out there.
Yeah, I think the one difference between a sport like track and football is track, there's times. If you don't run a certain time, you're not going to run, where football is kind of objective to a degree.
Yeah, but you're right. But
I know.
What I ultimately mean.
I totally understand your argument. I get it. He's a first rounder. He should be playing. I'm with you on that.
Richie, it is a good point, though. Like, there is a subjective element. Like, PFF can grade more horribly as they have, and the Steelers brass can say, Mike Tomlin can say, listen, who cares about them? We think he's done this, this, and this really well, and we like it, and you can't possibly put a number on that. That's fine. That's the only cover that they really have, is that his performance is more subjective, but I just don't like what seems to be the reasoning behind him starting again.
Chris, where were you for this? I had an awesome time playing in the Hoops for Hospice celebrity game, charity game at North Allegheny High School tonight, supporting Family Hospice of UPMC. Great teammates. I played with Tyler Kennedy there, Arthur Moats, Chris Peters, Steve Blass was our coach, a bunch of good teammates there. And, obviously basketball might have been your sport, but definitely not mine. I stink. This is why I never played basketball. I don't know if they're going to show some highlights here. Look, that's an air ball.
Oh, no.
You'll see I had a breakaway layup that I missed. But look me on Darren Morningstar, the big 7-footer. I was roughing him up a little bit down low. That's my only claim to fame. But I was fouling him a little bit, so.
Look at that sweet J, though.
Like
look at that one. I'll ignore the air ball. Yes, I like that, Kirk Cousins. I'll ignore the air ball. TK doesn't exactly look like a guy who played a ton of hoops.
He made a three. You know what? I made a three. The only thing I did well today, at the end of the third quarter, at the buzzer, I hit a three. And I walked off, and I had to come to work.
But I made 9 straight of them in a pickup game. You're also wearing an Apple Watch, which is kind of a funny thing to do during a hoops game. You know who of all the Penguins, apparently, I heard back in the day, now this guy doesn't play for the team anymore, but apparently could just throw down absolutely nasty dunks and would do so all the time? Robert Bortuzzo, apparently just a filthy dunker of the basketball. So
I could see it. I mean, he's really tall. Eric Tangradi played with us tonight. He was pretty good. I know he's a good golfer, too.
Who was the best player out there? Be honest. Who was the best player on the court?
I mean, you would think that it would be Darren Morningstar, but he's older, but he still played well. Doran Dickerson was pretty good tonight. Arthur Moats. I mean, there's a lot of professional athletes on the field. I wasn't a professional athlete on the court, so I wasn't the best. I looked out of place.
Well, you kind of had like a vague Philip Seymour Hoffman vibe in Along Came Polly, where he's going, Rainmaker, and it's just hitting the backboard and not even touching the rim. But I respect you for getting out there. You know what? I emceed the halftime there, and they were doing half-court shots. That's more my element. I'll call the game instead of playing it next time. If it's a golf match, a charity golf match, I'll do it. Something in my wheelhouse. Basketball's not my wheelhouse, of course. They should have had you playing. But anyways, it was a good time. We raised a lot of money there. Thanks for coming out. Do it again next year. So I'm sure Doran's going to be talking about it on the Fan Morning Show tomorrow. Maybe he was the most valuable player for his team. I'll give him credit. He was good. I fouled him a couple times. He got mad at me, I think. But that's the only thing I could do. Not surprising.
I just had to push people around. That's all I can do.
Well, that's what you like to do out there, Richie. Hey, I have another thing I'm worried about for this game on Sunday. So in the course of Patrick Peterson pretty much spilling the tea about the fact that Joey Porter Jr. was going to play a lot more and that he'd probably be lined up outside on Puka Nacua, I don't know about you. Like, there's a whole sequence of things with their defense that I think are kind of interesting statements when you take them all together, right? So Mike Tomlin gets mad. You were in that press conference. Christopher Carter, I'm going to give him credit by name. I thought he asked a perfectly fair question. He said, you guys are 8th in yards given up to wide receivers this year. Like, basically, you worried about that at all? And I know you saw this. Mike Tomlin got pretty annoyed with the question, which he rarely does. And I thought it was relevant because in Nacua, you've got a guy with 50 catches already. Cooper Kupp's already got, I think, 15 in 2 games, and he's been well over 100. And now you're going to apparently have Patrick Peterson sliding inside to match up one-on-one with Cooper Kupp, or they'll have a safety helping or something. Peterson's going to go to the Hall of Fame, but you know what? Cooper Kupp is a bad matchup for him. He's a bad matchup for everybody. It just feels, Richie, like this is a game where the Steelers might really give up a ton of yards and I think have a chance to give up a lot of points if they're not careful.
Cooper Kupp, 266 yards in the last 2 games. Puka Nacua leads the NFC in receptions, like you said, 50 there. So I think it is a tough matchup. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, like, you don't have to be a detective to realize that they're going to have to play more corners or defensive backs because the Rams can't run the ball. So they are one-dimensional, I think, which helps the Steelers a little bit. Maybe get that pass rush going, and I don't know.
How do you know they can't run the ball?
Well, I'm just going by who's going to be playing. So
I understand that, but I think I think we're kind of poisoned mentally with that here because this organization in a flawed manner has looked at the running game as at least significantly, maybe not majority, but significantly a function of who the actual running back is. That seems to be why they took Najee Harris. Kyron Williams, when he was healthy, 5th-round pick. I mean, I watched that game that the Rams played against the Cardinals last week. They didn't run the ball at all in the first half. A light bulb went on over Sean McVay's head at halftime. They came down and pounded the ball right at Arizona and pretty much took command of the game that way. They can run it. I think they're more of a scheme-based running team. I think the Steelers defenders did say something very true, which is, and this is something funny, what do we complain about with Matt Canada, Richie? The guy never he's like predictable, right?
Yeah.
They line up in 11 personnel, 1 back, 1 tight end, 3 wide, I think 93% of the time or something so far this year. And they just run whatever out of it. So they're not going to be a predictable team. They're going to be showing you the same look and doing completely different stuff out of it. I just think that's going to make it tough for the Steelers to key on any one thing.
You know, the good thing for the Steelers in this game, the Rams don't normally score a ton of points. They haven't yet this year, but, I mean, they just got Cooper Kupp back. So you got to keep it close for the Steelers team because we're still not sold on this offense. The Steelers offense, that is. I don't know how many points they could actually score. And if Kenny Pickett's only good in the fourth quarter when coming back or trying to win games, they can be completely out of it, which they almost were completely out of it outside of if the Ravens caught 2 balls, 2 touchdowns, that game was over last time.
Richie, let me ask you a hypothetical. You said the Rams offense has scored a reasonable amount of points. I mean, they're better than the Steelers in that regard.
Yeah.
Which is not hard to do because I think technically the Patriots and the Giants might be the only teams technically worse. Steelers are averaging like 12.5 points on offense a game.
Yeah.
If the Rams get to 17 points in this game and the Pittsburgh Steelers do not score a defensive touchdown, do you think the Steelers will win the game?
No, I don't. I don't think this offense can score more than 13 points. I mean, the offense. Maybe 16.
Well, in a sane world, that would get the quarterback benched, the coordinator fired, and a whole lot of other things done. I'll just say that for the record. If we're sitting
they're
here,
averaging 12 points, right? So
well, I know, but I mean,
who's going to think they could score more? Yeah, I know, but yeah. I know.
I'll let you have it. I'll let you take it. I'm just trying to make the point that, like, you know, we've watched Kenny Pickett for a season's worth of games here, and essentially they've been about a 14 or 15 points a game offense. In the normal world of the NFL, like I see people on Twitter complaining about the Saints because of how bad their offenses look tonight. In the normal real world, that gets people fired, that gets people benched. It doesn't result in just, hey, Deontay Johnson's coming back, this will be great, everything's going to be fine. We're just going to keep working on the things we do well and not really do anything with the things we don't do well. We'll get rid of those. So, like, what did they do? Work on 2 plays? What do they do if they're working on if they're going to try to expand things that went well for them offensively? Trick Kenny Pickett into thinking there's 2 minutes left and the team's down in the game by 4 points? I mean, it's not a really good state of affairs.
We keep making excuses for this offense. There's always something. Hey, this week it's Deontay Johnson's coming back. Pat Freiermuth. Both these guys are coming back. This offense is going to be like it should be. It's going to open things up, right? And then they're going to score 9 points, and everyone's going to be like, what happened? What's it next week? And then Matt Canada's going to come out and say, hey, we're close. You know, we just need to get a little bit better. I mean, you can re-cue one of his sound bites from 2021, and it's the same thing he said then as he says now. And that's what's hard to understand for me. I would imagine it's hard to understand for fans because it's the same rhetoric coming from Matt Canada each and every week, and they're not getting any better.
Mike Tomlin's clearly sick of being asked about his offense and sick of being asked about Kenny Pickett, and more so than he normally gets sick of being asked about things. And my suggestion to Mike would be, Mike, you're going to keep getting asked about those things as long as they're bad. So if you want to stop getting the same questions every week and lamenting the fact that no one ever harps on anything different, perhaps fix the thing that everybody wants to see fixed. Just a suggestion from your pal Mulsey.
All right, before we go to break here, I mean, is there any kind of leash on Kenny Pickett in this game?
No, it's pretty obvious that they don't have one. I mean, maybe if he threw 5 interceptions in one half and had a Peterman, maybe you would see something like that, but more as just of a spark. Like if he looked that bad and he was turning the ball over, I guess they could go to Trubisky, but they've hitched their wagons for better or worse to him, and so far, even though they're a winning team this year, it's been more worse than it has better.
And if you want to get your opinion heard, don't forget to tune in to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call tonight at 10:35 on KDKA+. So give us a call at 412-575-2600. We do it every night after the 10 o'clock news. For CBS News Pittsburgh, I'm Rich Walsh.